لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره نعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا ومن سيئات اعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له واشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له وان محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله القرآن الكريم بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته إلا ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. All you who have believed, fear Allah as He should be feared, and do not die except as Muslims in submission to Him. Amma ba'd. My dear brothers and sisters, today I'm going to be talking about a very important issue that, of course, there are many important issues happening now, but a very important issue that's always been a problem in time and will continue to be a problem, and it is making sure that you obey your parents and respect them and are dutiful to them. Qala Allah in Surah Al-Isra, verse 23, for your Lord has decreed that you worship none but Him and honor your parents. If one or both of them reach old age in your care, never say to them uff, or nor yell at them, rather address them respectfully. This verse emphasizes that one must worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone without associating any partners with Him. As associating partners with Him is the worst sin, one of the worst sins, which is shirk. Worship cannot be done to please anybody but Him, and one should not associate any partners with Him. Again, that is shirk. It's also compulsory for every human to be kind to their parents, their mother and their father, in such a way that does not go against the teachings of Allah and the Prophet. For instance, if your parents ask you to do something, you do not even show them off for any kind of this being unpleased. You instantly do it, because anything other than that is going against the teaching of Islam. Now, whether one or both of them attains old age while they're alive, one should never disrespect them in front of anyone. For instance, if your grandfather, for example, has Alzheimer's or some kind of issue, your father should never even if he gets frustrated from this Alzheimer's, which is not their fault, they should never even say uff or even get frustrated, no matter how much they start repeating themselves or how many issues start recurring once and once again. Again, this ayah in the Quran, it even says the word uff must never be said to them, nor should you stomp your feet at them or anything like that, because this is your parents, you're only given two, and this can be your key to Jannah or a fast pass to Nar. We see in Surah Maryam, when Sayyidina Zakaria, he asked Allah for a child. Allah gave it to him, but what did he mention? In the Quran it says, يا يحيى خذ الكتاب بقوة وآتيناه الحكم صبيا وحنانا من لدنا وزكاة وكان تقيا وبرا بوالديه ولم يكن جبارا عصيا. What does this mean? When Allah was blessing Prophet Zakaria, who was very old and wanted to have an offspring, and he made dua, Allah gave him a son, Zakaria. But what did he give to this son? In the Quran, the ayah I just said right now, the verses I just said, يا يحيى خذ الكتاب بقوة. It's Ya Yahya, this is the son, hold the scriptures firmly. Firmly hold on to the scriptures. And we granted him wisdom while he was still a child. The next verse then says, as well as purity and compassion from us, and he was God-fearing. And then the last ayah that I mentioned was, which means, and kind to his parents. He was neither arrogant or disobedient. Why did Allah mention this amongst these other things of having purity and compassion from Allah? And having wisdom that Allah gave him when he was still a child? Why did He also mention this in the same part of the surah, that he was kind to his parents? Because this is something that is very, very important, something that is all the way up here and gets brushed aside very, very commonly, but it has to be remembered that it's all the way up here, very important. And Allah explicitly mentioned while describing the son that he was not a disobedient tyrant, he will not be a disobedient tyrant. He highlights the importance of the quality of being dutiful to parents in the same part. Again in the surah, when Allah blessed Sayyidina Maryam with Sayyidina Isa as a son, she was not married, and everybody came to her with false assumptions, accusations about her. In the Quran it says, قالوا يا مريم لقد جئت شيئا فريا, which means in shock, they were saying, "Oh Maryam, you have truly done a horribly thing." Then it says, يا أخت هارون ما كان أبوك امرأ سوء وما كانت أمك بغيا, which means, oh sister of Harun, your father was not an indecent man, nor was your mother unchaste. So they're saying bad things to her. And then it says, then Sayyidina Maryam, she was blessed with Sayyidina Isa as a son, and she didn't have explanation. She didn't say anything. She just pointed at him. فأشارت إليه قالوا كيف نكلم ما كان في المهد صغير. They said when she pointed at him, how can we talk to him if he's a baby in the cradle? And then Sayyidina Isa starts talking as a baby. قال إني عبد الله آتاني الكتاب وجعلني نبيا. He says, I am truly a servant of Allah, and He has destined me be given the scripture and to be a prophet. And then, of course, it continues. And right after that, very, very important things are being said right now in the surah. But once again, it is mentioned what? وَجَعَلَنِي مُبَارَكًا أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُ أَوْصَانِي وَأَوْصَانِي بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ مَا دُمْتُ حَيًّا, which means He has made me a blessing wherever I go and bid me to establish prayer and give like alms tax, zakat, as long as I live. وَبَرًّا بِوَالِدَتِي وَلَمْ يَجْعَلْنِي جَبَّارًا شَقِيًّا. And to be kind to my mother, He has not made me arrogant or defiant. So once again, it's saying all of these amazing qualities that Allah has blessed Sayyidina Isa with, and then it's saying also He was kind to His mother. And He was not arrogant and He was not deviant, but defiant, but it's all in the same level here. Very important to respect your parents. Once again, we know that parents, the parents must be true. They have to be very active in bringing up their children correctly in an upright manner, and they have to ensure that their child is brought up in an Islamic way. If you go to the West, many instances in the West, you'll see maybe parents are not respected by their children. Maybe if you go to public school in America, you'll see that certain children start raising their voice and disrespecting their parents. Just because that is the norm here does not make it something that's acceptable. Because this can be one of the biggest things that can take you to Nar. A common teaching of some cultures abroad could be, for instance, that someone has to respect one's elders and never disobey one's parents. And these teachings will have a positive effect on the world of such children. So even without Islam, people have found that the respecting of parents is something that's beneficial overall, regardless of Islam or religion. But Islam teaches us to do this, and it forbids us from having any kind of disobedience or any kind of disrespect towards your parents. And of course, this is not only limited to Muslims alone, right? Whether your parents are Muslim or not Muslim, you still have to respect them and be kind with them and cannot say anything back to them. Maybe if they tell you to do something haram, they tell you to leave Islam, you do not have to listen to them. And we're giving this perfect example where, once again, in Surah Maryam, when Sayyidina Ibrahim was mentioned, what happened in Sayyidina Ibrahim in his story that was mentioned in Surah Maryam, in his life, his father worshipped idols, but he was still a dutiful son, and he never joined his fathers in the idol worship. So the idols, people in his time would worship idols, but Sayyidina Ibrahim, he would not do that stuff. And his father would tell him to do it, and he would disobey his father. That is acceptable, of course, because it's sin. But was he disrespectful in this? No, he wasn't. You even see in Surah Maryam, he says, "Ya abati la ta'bud ash-shaytan, inna ash-shaytana kana lir-rahmani 'asiyan." This means, oh dear father, do not worship the shaitan. Surely shaitan is ever rebellious against the most compassionate, against Allah. So he's trying to warn his father, he's trying to help him, he's doing his best to make sure his father, inshallah, becomes like on the right path. But his father would not. And he says, oh dear father, I truly fear that you will be touched by a torment from the most compassionate and become shaitan's companion in Nar. He tells him all these things, he's trying his best to get him in. His father's not listening, and on the contrary, his father wants him to be doing what? Worshipping the idols. And then his father told him and responded to him, he said, how dare you reject my idols, O Ibrahim? Yeah, Ibrahim, if you do not desist, I will certainly stone you to death. So be gone from me for a long time. So imagine your father telling you this. If you do not worship idols, I'm going to stone you to death. Your father. Yeah. He says this, and of course, I'm sure lots of people, if this happens to them, they're like, especially if it's a guy, they're gonna be trying to be manly about it, and they're not gonna take that. And they're gonna be disrespectful to them. Especially in the West, I'm telling you, people would do this very easily without second thought. But Islam does not teach this. Islam does not teach disrespect, does not justify disrespecting your parents. Maybe your parents does something haram, does not justify it. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam was still what? He was still very, very respectful to his father. He said, peace be upon you, I will pray to my Lord for your forgiveness. He has truly been most gracious to me. So he said, Khalas, goodbye. I will make dua that Allah will guide you. But he left. And this is very, very respectful. This is a very, very high level of respect he's giving to somebody who basically said, if you don't do this haram shirk stuff, I'm going to stone you to death. As my son, I'll still stone you to death. Allah further enjoins us to lower the wings in submission towards them. For example, if somebody is the president of a nation, it still applies to him, obviously. He has to remain humble, he has to remain obedient to their parents. Of course, the obedience to the parents is something that's connected to humbleness. When you see somebody, a big leader of a big nation, billions of people maybe, and he has still respected their parents, making their parents more powerful than them, basically, that's also something that's connected to humbleness. And we know that's also good behavior in Islam, for the parents to pray for their kids, and the kids to pray for their parents at all times, whether they are alive or not. So doing dua for your parents, even right now in sujood, when you're praying right now, you do dua for your parents, that is a sign, that is something good of worshipping Allah, because you are doing dua for your parents, which is part of respecting them and being dutiful to them. Of course, in the Quran it also says, and say, my Lord, have mercy on them both, as they did care for me when I was little. So you can take care of your parents. You have to make it a habit. Kind of how like they also always took care of you when they were little, and you want Allah to take care of you like how your parents took care of you when you were little. You take care of your parents the same way they took care of you when you were little. The example of Alzheimer's we mentioned earlier. If your father has Alzheimer's all of a sudden and now is in the hospital, or has some kind of issue and he's bedbound, it's the same thing. Even if he's not mentally there, it's the exact same thing. You talk to him, you help him, no matter how annoying it can get. We know that things can get very, very repetitive and annoying. No excuse. Allah gave you this parent. It could be your key to Jannah, or it could be fast pass to Nar. And of course, it says also, Allah has told us that give thanks unto me and unto thy parents. Unto me is the final return. So Allah is saying, give thanks to me and to your parents. Not just to Allah. Allah is the one who created all of us, but also do it to your parents. So Allah mentions many, many, many times that we need to be respectful and dutiful to who? Our parents. As a Muslim, you have to show gratitude to your parents at all times, even when they haven't done anything particularly, right? If you call your parents randomly, call your mother randomly, and you just tell her a good word, tell her something good to make her happy, that is a good thing in Islam. They don't have to prompt it. Nothing has to prompt this kind of reaction or action. Now there's a hadith where a man came to the Prophet ﷺ, and he asked him permission to take part in jihad. The Prophet ﷺ, he asked him, are your parents alive? He replied, yes. He replied in the affirmative. Then the Prophet ﷺ said what? He said, then exert yourself in their service. This hadith shows the importance of kindness to your parents in Islam. So when you have on one hand you have doing jihad, which is something that's very, very, very commendable and very good, and you have obeying your parents or making sure your parents don't get sad for you and all that. In this case, he did what? The Prophet ﷺ advised him to prioritize the parents, right? This hadith shows the kindness to the parents and its obligation upon us Muslims to do as commanded and make sure that we prioritize Allah in everything, which means in these kind of situations when you have to prioritize your parents, you prioritize your parents without complaints. If things are not going smoothly in one's life, is it allowed to check? It is allowed to check how things are going on at home. For instance, if you are maybe going abroad, you're at UCSD and you have parents in India or Africa or Europe or somewhere else, the other side of the country, wherever. It does not mean, okay, now you're on your own and you can work on yourself and do these things and be independent. You should always still check on your parents, because again, forgetting about your parents is something that first of all, this will make them feel bad even if you don't say anything. Second of all, you have to keep checking on them because they're your parents. You need to be connected with them. You need to make sure that they're happy with you, that they are always on a good terms with you. Even if something happens, they don't know what's going on. Maybe something that you don't know about is happening to them, or maybe vice versa. You have to still keep checking in on them because these are your parents. You only have two. And I keep saying this, like fifth time I'm saying this now, that your parents can be your key to Jannah or your fast pass to Nar. This can actually, if your parents, something happens, they find out something about you, or something happens and they become upset with you, but they don't tell you because you're not communicating with them, or maybe if you cut off communication with them, and then they die like this, you are in a very big problem. Especially because after that point, it's hard, you cannot ask them for forgiveness, they're dead. So you need to make sure 24/7, regardless of the situation, whether they have Alzheimer's and they're asking you things and you're trying to keep good relations with them, or whether you're living abroad and you don't see them and it's hard to talk to them and communicate with them. You need to always ensure that they are on good terms with you. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah wa ashhadu anna la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, there's a hadith that somebody came to Rasulullah ﷺ and he said, who among the people is most deserving of my fine treatment? He said, your mother. He said, then who? Who's the next one? He said, again, it is your mother who deserves to be the best treatment from you. He said, then who is the next one? He said, ﷺ said, again, it is your mother. Then he says who? Thereupon he said, then it is your father. Your mother 3 times before your father, basically. This is a sahih hadith. This reminds you that maybe you have a relationship with your father that you maybe value more. Maybe if you're a guy and you have more in common with your father, you hang out a lot, and you're very close and you love your father and all that. Doesn't matter. Ummak, thumma ummak, thumma ummak, thumma abuk. Your mother 3 times, then your father. You need to prioritize your mother. She's the one who carried you in her uterus for 9 months. She's the one who helped you. All these different, depending on the person, of course, but the vast majority, the mother is the one that helps in terms of raising the child. So you have to always prioritize the mother at the top, and then of course your father. Father also very, very high. Does not belittle how you treat your father. Both, you have to treat them with the utmost respect and be dutiful to both. Of course, if you have $1 million and you spend all of it on your mother, you have not even paid. If you pay her $1 billion, Bill Gates, he gives all the money to his mother. This is not even a fraction, not even 1% of what she's done for him. The mother is responsible for all this stuff. And of course, like I said, the mother, this is the one that you need to focus on the most. This is the priority. There's another hadith where a man went to Rasulullah and said, "Oh, Ya Rasulullah, my father wants to take my wealth." The Prophet said, "You and your wealth are for your father." So the money that you think is yours, that you think you're earned and you're entitled to it and you don't want to give it away and you're being greedy, you and your wealth, all of this is for your father. This is all, again, because just like your mother, this is not going to be a fraction of what your father or mother has done for you. You and your wealth are for your father. Muslims should not ignore the needs of his parents while catering for the needs of other people. It's also more rewarding to spend on your parents and your family rather than spending on other worldly things that will not get you any reward from Allah. If you want to go buy a Ferrari or something, if you take that money and you spend it on buying a house for your parents or something, this is going to be much, 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 much better in the long run and in the short run for you. There's another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he said 3 times, "Shall I not tell you about the worst of major sins?" They said, "Of course, Rasulullah." The Prophet ﷺ said, "They are to associate partners with Allah and to be disrespectful to your parents." The Prophet was reclining, then he sat up saying, "And surely to speak falsely, which is perjury," like lying. This hadith tells us what? Tells, of course, number one, you can't shirk. Shirk is the one that's like, that will take you out. But what does he say in the same hadith? Being disobedient, being disrespectful to your parents. So imagine shirk being all the way here as like, come on, that's going to take you to Nar, it's going to take you to hell. And in the same hadith, it also mentions another one of the worst of major sins is not being respectful to your parents, being disrespectful to them. And it also says how lying is a major sin and something that we need to avoid as well. So this is something that, like that hadith alone, you need to keep it in your brain at all times, 24/7. Remember, whenever you talk to your parents, anything like that, this can be one of the, if you handle it wrong, it can be one of the worst sins. I'm telling you, the same hadith as shirk, it tells you this. Where it mentions shirk being one of the worst sins, it says that being disrespectful to your parents is also one of the worst sins. And of course, lying. Lying is another, there'll be another khutbah. Somebody should do another khutbah on that. But that is also one of the worst sins. There's another hadith that says Allah does not accept the fard al-nafl ibadah of 3 people. One who is disobedient to his parents, one who reminds others of his favors, and one who rejects qadr. So again, it's mentioning these 3 types of people where Allah does not accept your fard al-nafl prayers. But one of these is what? People who are disobedient to their parents. So another, we're giving example after example in the Quran, in the Hadith, in the Sunnah, all these things about reminders of how terrible it is to be disrespectful and disdutiful to your parents. Another, I'm mentioning a lot of hadiths because this is all over. It's a big pattern. A similar hadith, Rasulullah ﷺ says, "No one who is disobedient to his parents will enter paradise." It's another hadith. All these hadiths are very, very scary if you think about it. If you close your eyes and imagine the afterlife, and think of what could happen to you if you end up dying with your parents unhappy with you, it's scary. And again, this is not applied to just Muslim parents. You have non-Muslim parents, again, you need to be respectful to them, dutiful to them. So subhanAllah, we see a lot of these patterns in the Quran, the Sunnah, and all these things. But if you don't remember anything from this the khutbah, remember this. Your parents can be your key to Jannah or the fast to hell. I keep saying it again and again because it's true. This can literally mess you up. Something that many of us is guilty of is when your father or mother asks you to do something, even if it's something very, very big, at the very least you'll say, "Oh man, are you sure you really want me to do?" Like you'll talk back, you'll do something, signaling what? Some kind of you don't want to do it, some kind of like hesitation. You can't do that. That is something very, very small. Even if you don't yell at your parents or curse at them or anything like that, that alone is something that's very, very bad. So like, I'm telling you right now, like if your father or mother asks you to do anything, such as if your mother wants you to drive to, maybe she says, "Look, drive to San Francisco right now and get me this," and you come back in rush hour, it'll take you 11 hours or something. Like if you imagine your mother tells you this right now, course you couldn't like, I don't want to like come on, I have school, I have. No, you don't do that. You don't do that. You find a way to make it happen. If it doesn't happen, you can explain it respectfully. But say you're free and you're able to do these things, you just don't want to do it out of laziness or whatever. You can't do that. You have to obey your mother, and you can't just obey your mother like that. You have to do it showing her that you are not bothered by it. You can't say, okay, sure, I'll go do it. No, yes, I'll go do it. You show her. She cannot even see an ounce of your hesitation or any other second thoughts you're having about this. And of course, just like how being dutiful to your mother and father are important, it's also imperative to show them that you care about them and love them. A kind word that you say to them can change their day, it can change their week even, especially if they have not talked to you in a long time and you live abroad. So I implore you, and I totally remembered one thing, but let's make it two things. Remember, first thing is, of course, Jannah can be very easily, inshallah, like you can go to Jannah very easily with being good to your parents, fast to Jannah, or you can take you to Nar very easily. But the other thing I want you to remember, inshallah, after this khutbah, maybe after the sunnah that you do after the khutbah, or maybe after socializing with your friends or whatever it may be, try to call your parents. Just one call, even if you saw them yesterday, even if you lived with them and you saw them today, call your mother and your father and talk to them and tell them something good. I miss you. I miss your food. I miss this. Something that will put a smile on their face. Because putting a smile on your parents' face, I'm telling you, fast to Jannah, making your parents happy. This is something that's very, very serious. And don't think it's a few seconds of my time, I'll forget it, and I'll lose it, and I won't remember again. No. This is something, this can go to you to your afterlife. And I swear to you, in the afterlife, you're not going to regret doing it. If you take 1 minute, 2 minutes to call your parents, you're not going to regret it. There's another hadith. I want to conclude with this hadith. It says 3 supplications are answered without a doubt. The supplication of an oppressed person, the supplication of a traveler, and the supplication of a parent over his child. So if your parent makes you dua, so say you call them and you make them happy, and you're in their mind now, and they do sujood and they do dua for you, this is going to be accepted. This is one of the 3 hadiths that will be answered without a doubt if your parents make dua for you. So always make sure to remember that. Don't just call your parents when you have an exam to make dua for me, I'm going to fail this exam or whatever. No. You need to always be talking to your parents, keep them happy with you, and of course, ask them to do dua for you, of course. Nothing wrong with that. So I have a couple of MSA announcements and then a couple of du'as to do. So first of all, if you are not on the MSA chats, please come up to a board member and or after the sunnah prayer, outside of the prayer space, and emphasize, lead the CCC quietly without overcrowding it, and then try to find the board member to add you to one of the chats, because we have chats for the sisters, chats for the brothers, and we have chats for everyone where announcements are sent. So these are very important to join. So if you are not in this, try to find someone, like one of the board members. They'll be outside, inshallah, this area out here, and they can add you, inshallah. Second, we have lots of chats in the community for joining different committees. We have lots of committees in the MSA. We have other chats for carpooling, for Jummah setup and cleanup, and of course committees. I can go all day mentioning how many committees we have, but they're all very useful. And then the third thing is that there's a sisters painting social happening at 3 p.m. at the Matthew Squad. So again, if you don't know where that is, you can ask one of the chats or ask one of the board members afterwards. Another announcement, there's ALM, Alif Lam Mim. It's a Muslim interest frat, and it's a place for brothers to grow and improve themselves Islamically, and to kind of get together and have events and do all that. And if you'd like to talk with them, ALM has recruitment next week, and they will be having an info night on Saturday. So if you need more information, talk to Arif Ismail or Umar Abbasi, or just follow the Instagram of ALM UCSD and talk to them. And then the final announcement, inshallah, is we have MGSA, it's the Muslim Grad Student Association. So if you are a graduate student and you are Muslim, if you're here, you should be Muslim, inshallah. We have a social town hall event, the first town hall of all time of the MGSA at, inshallah, it'll be, the details are on the Instagram, but it'll be on Thursday, October 10th. So keep that in mind and check the Instagram for more details. If you're a grad student and you're free at that time, you have no excuse to come. Just come, it's the first town hall. Inshallah, you'll enjoy it. And then also, last thing, we announced we have a new anonymous Google form where every week you can put in your dua. So the khatib, when he comes up, he can read the du'as for you. And inshallah, Ajma'in will all have everyone will do dua for you. So here are the 3 du'as from this week. The first one, somebody says they want dua. So I'll just make the dua right now. May Allah help this person succeed in their school and career, to be able to take their parents on an all-expenses trip to Mecca and Medina. May Allah provide us all with the ease and in all phases of life and academics goals that we all have, and make them all possible. May Allah lead us to the righteous path and make us all obedient to all the 5 daily prayers. May Allah help one of the brothers, his mother and father. May He grant them with good health and cure them of their ailments, and grant them with financial stability so that they're able to afford tuition for themselves and their sister. And ربنا يعطينا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وبارك على محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد وأقم الصلاة.